welcome to my channel. First of all, if you hear any loud snoring on the background, it's because of this. Hold on. Yeah, because can you hear it? She's pretty loud, but we're gonna try to do this video, okay? So I finally got to watch The Little Mermaid live action 2023 that's streaming now on Disney Plus for free. I mean, if you subscribe to the streaming service. And to be honest, when the movie came out about 4 months ago in the theaters, I didn't want to spend the money to watch it on the big screen. So I was just like, oh, I will wait until it comes out on streaming. So I finally got to watch it and I have some thoughts. The original version of The Little Mermaid, the animated version, came out in 1989. And at that time, movies that came out in the United States took like a couple years to come out in Brazil. So I want to say first time I watched the animated version, I was probably maybe, I don't know, 7 years old, like maybe. But I used to work with kids, with little kids, and we always put out, movies for them to watch. But the one movie that we always watched because my coworker loved it was Beauty and the Beast. So we're always watching Beauty and the Beast. And growing up, my two favorite Disney movies were Sleeping Beauty and Snow White. Somehow, The Little Mermaid was never on my radar. I know there's like fans of the movie that watch multiple times, know every song, every detail. So I remember the plot of the movie and what the story is about. The mermaid that loses her voice. I remember Ursula, Prince Eric, and she gets legs. I remember some of the songs, but I wanted to say all of this because when I watched this movie, I watched with fresh eyes. I didn't have much in my head to like point out and compare it or this changed, that changed, because when the movie came out in theaters, I knew that a lot of changes were made and, hardcore fans of the animated version were upset about it. So when I watch it, all those changes flew by my head. But let's talk about our main players. I would start with Halle Bailey. She shines here. This is her movie. I thought she was so charismatic and she really makes you believe that she's such a kind, nice person, which I'm sure she is in real life because I watch a lot of interviews that she was doing press for the movie and I was like, she's so sweet. And she sounds like an angel, not just by her singing, but the way she speaks. She seems like the nicest person. So to say that she was perfectly cast, I mean, it's an understatement. One thing that was a pet peeve for me and a distraction actually was her hair. When we first meet Ariel and she's underwater, her hair, it's beautiful. It's straight and it's like flowy and she has like a couple of braids here and there. But when she goes into human land, like the mainland, and she's found by a fisherman and she's all wrapped in seaweed, and the whole time that she's there with Eric and like she's a human, she has dreadlocks, like full on, like cute little dreadlocks. And I was like, Ariel, what happened between being underwater, saving Eric from that shipwreck, and then being in human land? What point did your hair get so tangled that it became dreadlocks? It was very inconsistent. I mean, I got over it and I got used to the hair mid-movie, but it reminded me of when I went to, I was vacationing in Cancun, Mexico, and I had a few of my hair extensions left, just a few, but I went snorkeling and the snorkeling goggles, they're plastic and they're tight in your head. And you're supposed, when you have hair extensions, you're supposed to leave, sleep with them in braids or have them in buns so they don't get tangled up. And on the vacation, I had my hair down the whole time. And the last time I went snorkeling, it got so tangled on the goggles that my friend had to I remember this noise because she had to rip my hair off the goggles to untangle it. And she had to use we didn't have any more conditioning. She had to use body lotion to try to, to comb it through the knots of the hair. I had dreadlocks by the time I left Cancun, and one of them was like the size of like a tennis ball, like right here. Oh my gosh, I went to a hairstylist, and the hairstylist looked at me like, oh, sweetie. And I was like, what? Am I going to have to shave my head? And when Ariel saves Eric from the shipwreck, you know, they're laying on the beach and she sings to him. I like that they used her voice as a siren song because it made more sense for him to be so captivated by her, like he was under a spell or something. He was so obsessed about finding the girl that saved him. And it made more sense that, I don't know if she did it on purpose, that she used her voice to like hypnotize him and make him be under her spell. One of the most famous songs in the movie is the Kiss the Girl. And there was a lot of controversy, I think, when the movie came out because they changed the lyrics, because there's a lot of like, oh, we need to talk about consent. You can't just kiss the girl. You gotta ask the girl. It's one of my least favorite songs in the movie. I will tell you my least favorite song. But during that scene where they're in the lagoon, in the canoe, and they're singing, you know, Kiss the Girl, that was probably my favorite scene of the movie. It's when Eric learns Ariel's name. She can't speak, so they're looking up in the sky and they see the stars and the constellations, and she points to Aries, and he's like, Aries, Aries. And she was so cute. She did this to his lips, like, she flicked his lips, and he's like, Ariel? And he finds out her name. I was like, oh, that was an awe moment. And it was so funny when Eric was trying to guess names for Ariel. He said, one of the names he said was Catherine. Like she looks like a Catherine. And Halle Bailey, like the look on her face was so funny. He's like, Catherine? And she's like, and he said, yeah, you don't look like a Catherine. Before they went into their canoe date, they ride their carriage across town and they see all the locals. They're like having this party and they're playing, can I say like Jamaican music? Yeah, like Caribbean music. And I thought it was so cute because Ariel didn't really seem out of place. You know, she knew how to dance. She was trying all this little like human things. The music that was playing, like the song and the way that people were dancing, it was like straight out of In the Heights. I at one point I thought they were like gonna bust out some salsa moves. The song, it just felt so In the Heights. And we also get a really nice cameo by what's her name, Jodie Benson, who's the original Ariel in The Little Mermaid. If you close your eyes, you could tell it was her because of her voice, but the way the camera like pointed at her, you're like, ha, we know who you are. A big letdown is that we don't get to see Ariel in her wedding dress, in that famous, that's another thing I remember about the animated one. She has that white sparkly one. I think it's when she comes out of the ocean or something, but it's like such an iconic dress. She doesn't get like that dress here. Like Halle Bailey comes out, they're coming like down the stairs, and I thought it was their wedding. I was like, is this their wedding? But you know, there's no wedding in this movie. And she wears the same like ruggedy blue dress that she wore before. I'm like, really? You like marrying a prince and you have to like reuse that dress? I feel like every Disney princess deserves a princessy, fancy, beautiful gown, and we don't get that here. So I felt like the ending wasn't as climatic as, you know, it's supposed to be. Prince Eric, I know I said on my trailer reaction that I didn't care much for him in the trailer, but in the movie, I really liked him. I thought the actor did a great job. I think he added a lot of personality to Prince Eric, and the fact that he had his own collection of, you know, trinkets or finds or whatever, I thought was such a clever idea. And he has a beautiful voice. Like that man can sing. So it was so unfortunate that his song Uncharted Waters was my least favorite song. It was just like, it was too long. First of all, they should have cut that song in half. It didn't rhyme. It wasn't a bop. It wasn't catchy. You know, usually like Disney movie songs, like they stuck to your head for like days and you're like walking and singing. This song, like Uncharted Waters, it was just like, And no. And speaking of Eric, we actually found out that he's adopted. The queen herself, and he calls her mom, but she mentioned that they found him in a shipwreck. And if I'm not mistaken, they said a pirate shipwreck. Did they say pirate shipwreck or just shipwreck? Remind me. And in my head, I kept thinking, wait, it's Eric, Captain Jack Sparrow's long lost son? Or he's like Elsa's lost brother? So I kind of wanted to see a flashback of how they found Eric. Under the Sea to The Little Mermaid is like Be Our Guest from Beauty and the Beast. And it was cute. And I think, hey, Halle, she saved that song. Even though she only has like, a couple lines when Sebastian's like, under the sea. She's like, under the sea. I mean, I'm not doing justice to her voice, but the way she sings is like, I like the steel drums. And the more I think about it, and I'm a big David Diggs fan, I love him in everything he does. He had a show on Apple TV, Hamilton, of course. He's a great singer, rapper. But I don't know, it was something about his voice and this song that like didn't really match. And speaking of rap, Aquafina, she plays Scuttle, the seagull. And Scuttle has their own songs like Scuttle Butt or something. They should have cut that song off the movie. It was a waste of minutes that could have been spent on, another storyline or something else. It was such a lame song. And it felt like the rapping that they were doing was too forced. And I think Lin-Manuel Miranda needs to understand that not all actors can rap like he's used to it in Hamilton, like David Diggs, Anthony Ramos, the whole cast. Because Aquafina, even though I think she's done rapping before, has she? Maybe? It felt like she was out of breath during that whole song, that Scuttlebot. Maybe because she has that raspy voice, but I felt like the bird was dying out of breath. A Part of Your World. Favorite song, especially about the way it was delivered by Halle Bailey. It was just, I kid you not, it gave me goosebumps. Like I paused it after she hit that note at the end and she's looking up and I was like, oh my, like both of my arms, like the hair was standing up. And I spoke to a friend of mine who saw the movie in the theater. They said that after that song ended, people like clapped and some people were like giving a standing ovation. Let's talk about Ursula, because Ursula and the casting of Melissa McCarthy was a big controversy. And I get it. So because of all that controversy, I went, with low expectations, especially after seeing a picture of her, with the makeup done. I was like, ooh, that does not look good. Oh my gosh, it's going to be such a disappointment. But I didn't mind Ursula at all. I think Melissa McCarthy delivered. And I've been a fan of hers since Suki in Gilmore Girls. I don't know how much auto-tune they did with her voice for the song Unfortunate Souls, but she sounded really good. And even when she was just speaking, if I closed my eyes, I wouldn't even think it was Melissa McCarthy. So the way like she was able to change her voice, I thought was really good. The one thing that I didn't like about her Ursula is that she wasn't as scary as other Disney villains. She wasn't scary enough for me, and she didn't have enough of a presence as other villains do. And then there's the drag queen controversy, because a lot of people wanted a drag queen to be cast as Ursula, because the original one was inspired by a drag queen called Divine. So, a lot of people wanted Queen Latifah or a drag queen. Would I want to see a drag queen play Ursula? Totally. Do I understand why the studio went with Melissa McCarthy? Because they need a big name for the movie? I do. And at the end of the day, it's also like, who's the best for the part? Who's to say that they didn't audition some drag queens for the part and Melissa McCarthy was the better actress? Javier Bardem as King Triton. I know a lot of people made jokes that he looks like an underwater Jesus and he was miscast. I liked him. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I liked him because I'm a Javier Bardem stan. I think he cannot fail as an actor. Everything he does, I support, and I think he's great. I just think like he played King Triton as like a quieter king. In his death, it's something that I guess they change it from the animated version because I heard he dies in the animated version. I do not remember that. So he dies here, but then Ariel brings him back to life or saves him, you know, at the end. So he doesn't die. And I'm glad they brought him back because one of the most touching moments of this movie was at the end when he's sending, he calls her, you know, his little girl, he's sending her off to explore the world with Eric. You know, any parents out there know the feeling of when your kid, you know, leaves for school or leaves the house. And I always remember that my mom, because I left when I was 19 years old, yeah, almost 20, and I left to a whole different country. And then a few years later, my sister left to a whole different country, and me and her were like opposite ends, you know, like United States and France. And whenever somebody asks my mom, you know, how she felt, that she having a hard time, and she says, you don't raise your kids to yourself. You raise your kids to the world. You raise them to be good people, to do kind things, and you hope that when you send them off to the world, they will still be good people and they will still do kind things. So that moment when, you know, Javier Bardem had that look on his face, I was like, oh, I thought about my mom. And at that moment when he's shipping her off, all the mer folks, you know, the merman community, they come above water and they're all saying goodbye to Ariel. And I was laughing because I was just like, Ariel, you picked vanilla Prince Eric. Why? When there's so many hot mermen down here where you live. Did you guys notice there was a lot of hot mermen in her little community, but she chose bland Prince Eric. Speaking of her community, we get to see her sisters, you know, because her sisters, there are 7 sisters and they represent the 7 seas. I was just so bummed out because the sisters, they all look great. We just didn't get a lot of screen time. I was just like, come on, Disney, you make a whole doll line for these girls, but we don't see them that much. So I want a spin-off. I don't want a sequel with Ariel and Eric. I want a spin-off with the sisters. Like, what do they do? What are their responsibilities? Where did they come from? Who are their mothers? Because they only meet once a year, right? For this moon thing, moon festival or whatever. But we don't know why is that, you know, and what they're doing. And the fact that they're all different ethnicities, I was just like, oh, Triton, you really did your rounds, didn't you? Because come on, you know, you can't have like an Asian mermaid and then someone that looks like from Iceland, maybe, and then Ariel. They cannot have the same baby mama. They have the same baby daddy, but so I think Triton, he did his rounds around the oceans with different women. And then we have Flounder, her fish slash best friend that was, you know, a lot of people hated on him when the posters first came out. They say he looked like, you know, a dead fish, an albino fish. It was such a disappointment. He looked awful. I'm sorry. He looked awful. And I felt so bad for Jacob Trembling because he had the perfect voice for Flounder. If you close your eyes and just listen to his voice, it's like, yes, you could totally be like an animated character. He, like, his voice was perfect for Flounder. But then when you see it on screen, it's just like, ugh. And I know people will say that, oh, you can compare cartoon fishes to live action fishes. It's like, no. You can still have a live action fish look cute. So I enjoyed this, you know, new version of The Little Mermaid. Will I watch it again? No, I don't think so. You know, there's a lot of other Disney movies that, you know, I rewatch it, and I don't think this one will be one of those. I think they should have like cut out some of the songs. Like I said, not Eric. Eric needs a song. I get it. But that song was just like way too long. And like I said, was not a bop. And also the scuttlebutt should have cut that one altogether and spend more time in like with background stories. Like once again, I wanted to see like how Eric was found. I wanted to know more about the sisters or how Ariel's mom died. We don't even know how she died. I know her dad said that was the humans that killed her, but why? What happened? So what did you think of The Little Mermaid, the live action version? Did you get a chance to watch it on the big screen? Or did you wait like me to watch it on Disney Plus? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and also hit the little bell notification button so you don't miss any future videos. And I'll see you next time.